always think a lot to do with my 15 to 30 minute time slot with you, and I a full skin exam is hard to squeeze in. I'm we in Kingston. I always give plug for local practices, but we have Dr. Ken Kircher's practice. I think that's advanced dermatology, and also I use a lot of Hudson Valley dermatology. I know they're in Poughkeepsie as well, but they have an office in Kingston. I apologize if I'm leaving out any other dermatologic services.
Call in with your favorite dermatologist.
Yes, please, by all means, please feel to call in. But but I agree with you completely. I am ready and willing to refer my patients for a full qualified skin exam.
Doctor, are there any other new recommendations? The colonoscopy age has been lowered. Are any other screening recommendations changed recently?
In my perspective, no. Most of the cancers I treat, unfortunately, don't have screening practices. Colorectal cancer is the most common one. I do believe lung cancer screening has been reduced, but I would.
No, it has. It has. Yeah. I just had a patient pass away last week, and one of my oldest patients, not by years, but when I came to town in '95, he became my patient, and we diagnosed his lung cancer with screening, but unfortunately, it was already kind of a little too far along. So this is a gentleman who in just over the 5 years, the recommendation screening changes. He probably would have been screened early and earlier, and it would have been picked up in a more treatable phase. So this is an important subject. But it's a good point that you brought up because it does come up a lot in my practice. Someone had, father passed away from pancreatic cancer, for example, and the patient is worried. How do I counsel that person regarding screening for these type of dreaded cancers?
Yeah. So there's kind of two interesting things in what you brought up. One is that the newest recommendations from the national kind of body that makes recommendations for cancer care, or one of them, of the National Cancer Center Network, or NCCN, recommends that anyone with a pancreatic cancer diagnosis be sent for genetic testing for screening for, syndromes that can be passed down among families. So we've got genetic counselors at Vassar Brothers, and any of the pancreatic cancer patients that I'm seeing, I refer down there. The second thing is that if I have any concerns based on a family history, patient has a family history of maybe breast cancer and pancreatic cancer, or pancreatic cancer and melanoma, you can always reach out to a genetic, or I can always reach out to a genetic counselor, or someone can always reach out to my office to see if they should be screened for genetic testing. We can figure that out. There are specific syndromes that link pancreatic cancer and melanoma and breast cancer and gynecologic cancer like ovarian cancer. And so I'm very liberal with speaking with our genetic counselors to see if we can get people in and get some peace of mind that this is not something that is, at risk of being passed down in their family. Because if you do have a genetic predisposition, then actual screening guidelines do exist for pancreatic cancer, melanoma, breast cancer, etc.
So if I have a patient, a 60-year-old patient, say to me, should I be checked for pancreatic cancer? My father died from it. I don't know. What answer should I give that patient?
I think that you could either reach out to me or anyone in the cancer center, and we would make sure that we get a full family history, and we could, discuss the patient with our genetic counselor. The screening recommendations for genetic changes are really at the individual patient level.
Right,
but if there's
interesting.
Other subtle findings, in their family history, the genetic counselor may find them appropriate, patient for genetic screening. So I don't think that I think it's a tailored approach for someone who has a family history and is probably diagnosed before those recommendations for genetic testing were established. But I'm certainly willing to see those patients and discuss it with them and our genetic counselor and see if it's appropriate. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a visit in the hospital or in the clinic. That could be just a telephone visit to discuss.
Yeah.
But if someone needs some peace of mind, we can certainly make those
Sure.
referrals if we need to.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's from our organization, if that's a opportunity for some growth, connecting the primary care wing with the genetic counseling wing to help patients who are concerned about this. Because, you're helping me modify my practice just by answering my questions. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, it's a focus of surgical oncology is making sure we don't miss those things that get passed down in the family, because I can give some peace of mind.
And what is going on with the world of pancreatic cancer? So from my experience, it was a dreaded diagnosis, and the surgery was famously called the Whipple procedure, which I remember everyone crowding in the OR room to watch one of the surgeons do a Whipple, as a medical student. Is that something that's still done, or is that a little more complicated these days?
It certainly is something that's still done. Dr. Swan is probably the most established surgeon in the region for treating pancreatic cancer and performing these complex operations. I also was trained in them, both in Indiana and in Fox Chase in Philadelphia, and offer them as part of my services. The mainstay of treatment for pancreatic cancer is a combination of both surgery and chemotherapy. Right now, it's still a little bit in the air about the appropriate sequencing of treatment. There are some places that believe that everyone should get chemotherapy beforehand. There are some places that believe that we should selectively use it beforehand and offer it afterwards. I can tell you our practice at Vassar Brothers is to take an individualized approach, looking at your presentation, at all of your imaging and biopsies, discussing your patient or discussing the presentation, what we call multidisciplinary tumor board, where our medical oncologists or chemotherapy doctors, radiation oncologists that give radiation, surgeons, pathologists, radiologists who look at the CT scans, all get together and discuss these cases on an individual level, patient by patient. So if you see us, one patient may be offered chemotherapy before surgery, try to shrink the tumor, and make for an easier surgery. The other one may have an easily removable tumor, and so we'll consider surgery up front and then chemotherapy afterwards. But even the earliest stage pancreatic cancer, we know benefits from consideration for chemotherapy, and so we're generally offering those regularly for our patients.
So would you say overall the treatment is more optimistic than it was 10, 20, 25 years, provided that it's a time, a diagnosis that's maybe more timely?
Yes. So it certainly is. We've got more chemotherapy regimens now than we did before, and some of the data that we have for surgery and then chemotherapy in well-selected patient populations, has like doubled the life expectancy of pancreatic cancer patients. So, I hope that no one gets any cancer diagnosis, and certainly not a pancreatic cancer diagnosis, but things are certainly much better off than they were even a few years ago.
Okay. Yeah, and this is all good. By the way, a lot of times pancreatic cancer is diagnosed someone has the imaging for another reason, right? And then it's kind of picked up. But it's a juggle that I have as a primary care physician, because certainly patients do come in sometimes and they ask for what I call the car wash. Could they just go into a CAT scan machine and be checked for everything? And that's not an easy question to answer for me as a primary care physician.
Well, CT scans have radiation with them. If you get enough radiation over your lifetime, you do actually increase your risk of a cancer diagnosis from the radiation itself. That's not a problem for the average patient, but for someone with maybe Crohn's disease who gets scanned fairly regularly, that's actually a real perceivable risk. And I think patients should be counseled if they're not at increased risk and they don't meet screening guidelines, then the chances of finding something may be higher, but the chances of finding a cancer diagnosis may not. So you may end up with a lot of anxiety related to this spot here, that spot there. You get biopsies, you get stabbed, you take time, to get to get a sample to send to the pathologist. You have to take time off from work, and it may all lead to no cancer diagnosis. So, we would love to have screening guidelines for every cancer that I treat. That would be amazing. But if they're not cost effective, and if they're not going to show a benefit in finding earlier cancer and more treatable, it's going to lead to a lot of patient anxiety. The best example I have of that is MRIs for breast cancer have become very popular. I think breast cancer awareness continues to increase, and so a lot of people have heard that breast MRI is the best way to diagnose breast cancer. And all of the data supports that patients who get MRIs regularly who aren't at increased risk of breast cancer based on their genetic history and risk factors are more likely to undergo more biopsies, more likely to undergo mastectomies.
Right.
Just because I think they get fatigued and worn out from the stress of possible cancer diagnosis, and so they're just more likely to undergo larger surgeries and just kind of be done with it.
And then I always take advantage of the opportunity to give a plug, but we also have some fine breast cancer specialists over at Vassar.
And Northern Dutchess.
And Northern Dutchess. Dr. Curcio, who I'm very, very fond of, has been a guest on this show. I continue to be appreciative of her willingness to see patients just out of risk. It's been a challenge in primary care to kind of, get someone an evaluation unless there's something going on, so I appreciate her for that point of view. Just in whole breast health and breast care, are really excellent. So again, in our own backyard, we have good resources. Robin, what do you think? Any questions?
This is fascinating. I'm just really, really so appreciative of you calling in today. Any advice that you might have for us, Doc, as far as taking care of ourselves better and maybe avoiding coming to see you?
Sure. There's a lot of lifestyle modification that we can do to try to decrease our cancer risk. The most obvious one that people are going to think of is if you smoke, there's no better time to quit than today. They'll decrease your chance of requiring to ever see me for a whole host of cancers. The exercise has been shown. Exercise and maintain an appropriate body weight has been shown to decrease cancer risk. A healthier diet that's low in red meat and higher in fruits and vegetables probably decreases your risk of colorectal cancer. And then recent publications have demonstrated an increased cancer risk of all types of cancer with people who drink alcohol. So if it's something you've been thinking about giving up, or you give up for Lent, and then you go back to after Lent's over, and maybe a good time to quit. Those are all things that we can modify. But what I try to focus on the most is see your primary care doctor regularly. Have open discussions about cancer screening, colonoscopy, lung cancer, breast cancer, like we talked about, and just make sure that if you see them regularly, you talk about updated guidelines. And so that's going to be the easiest way to either prevent a cancer or diagnose it early when it's easily treatable. And that's the easiest thing to do. I mean, colonoscopy is, one night, one day out of your maybe decade, as opposed to lifestyle modifications like changing your entire dietary restrictions, which may be trickier for people.
By the way, the meal after a colonoscopy, the breakfast, is delicious. So it's
glorious.
Yes.
After the fast.
That's right.
Doctor, I can't think of a better person to ask this. What is going on physiologically from healthy cells to creating cancer cells in any person's body? That origination of the cancer cells, what is going on?
Well, that's a big matzo ball, as they say.
So there's a group of people that have some genetic changes to their tumor cells to their normal cells when they're born that either change it so that things that generally cause your cells to divide are actually turned on and working extra. And then there are other patients that have preventative mechanisms that notice errors in your genetic code and remove those cells that have those errors to prevent cancer from developing. Those are the genetic predispositions. Either one kind of turns you on to growing too much, or the other one prevents you from recognizing errors that then lead to compounding problems. When you look at people who don't have genetic changes, what we see, or not born with genetic changes, I should say, what we see is a variety of changes in their cells that occur over time, and that's how come, we don't see as many cancers in young patients as we do in people as they get in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They accumulate these small changes in their genetic code over time, and they're missed by the kind of repair mechanisms. And as you get enough mutations, either to cause upregulation of growth or to cause a decrease in recognition of mutations, that once you get to a certain threshold, you actually develop cancer cells. So we'll see different genetic changes in patients with precancers. So you'll see some genetic changes in a colon polyp that's removed if you do genetic sequencing on it. And then if you look at someone who develops a colon cancer, they'll have further genetic changes that we actually look for and target with those target treatments I was talking about nowadays that are only present in actual cancers and not present in these precancerous lesions. But it's basically a lot of oxidative stress that occurs over time as we age. Our bodies just get less capable of filtering out these subtle mutations that happen, and eventually it tips over and becomes enough for a cancer cell that can spread.
Oh, yep, it's complicated, right? So it's kind of like something goes wrong in the reproduction of a cell, and then there's a whole system of body mechanisms to kind of surveil it, but then things happen.
When people see me, they think of me as the face of cancer treatment, which I appreciate, but what I learned when I was at a NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center, Fox Chase, the clinical side, the front-facing side, the side that saw the patients was only 1/3 of the hospital. 2/3 of the hospital was the basic science researchers that were making those groundbreaking discoveries in cancer treatment. And that's kind of what separates a comprehensive cancer center from a community cancer center like ourselves, is we're able to provide all the cancer treatment, or nearly all the cancer treatment that a comprehensive cancer center does. But the comprehensive cancer centers have huge supporting labs that they're taking care of. They're making these next startling revelations in the management of cancer treatments, such as immunotherapy.
Amazing.
All right. Look, we are phenomenally appreciative of your time, and I'm also very happy and proud that I'd like to call you colleague. You're an amazing addition, and all of the great doctors that we have at our disposal here. And by the way, this is a non-denominational show, so I'm not shilling for new bands, so to speak. I'm legitimately proud of having colleagues like Dr. Minderich available. So thank you for your time, and you worked. Do you get to sleep in this morning, or you got to go right back to work?
Oh, I called in a little bit late compared to what I was hoping for, because I wanted to make sure that I spoke to the residents caring for my patients, and we had kind of tucked in the patients. So I'm going to go in after this and see everybody. But,
all right. By the way, that's another whole topic, is the residency training going on over at Vassar as well. But thank you for your time, and thank you for the work you do.
Oh, well, thank you for having me here. Had a great time, and I'd be absolutely thrilled to talk more about cancer care on your program if I ever have a need again.
Well, maybe we'll have you back in the future.
I appreciate that.
Maybe I can nail some of your colleagues down there, Niskorsky and Swan and those other guys.
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. We speak regularly about all of our patients, so I know how passionate they are about their cancer care and cancer patients, and they would be an absolute great resource as well.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, so let's go to a break, and then we're going to do birthdays.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for standing by, folks, for the birthday event. It's now at the bottom of the hour, and you're with us on right after our break. We'll be doing the birthdays. So it's now at the bottom of the hour, and you're with us on Kingston Community Radio, KCR, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Monday, March 21st, 38 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building, maintenance, and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. And visit herzogs.com for their ongoing sales. And This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Herzog's. We'll be right back.
Never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Shirley Stabe from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one near you. And KCR's Talk Radio, thank you for calling in, 331-9255, 331-9255. And let's get back to our hosts today. Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker, and we are going to now run down all the birthdays that we have for today. Welcome back.
All right, welcome back. Welcome to the final half hour of show. We're going to sum up what we've learned today, but right now we're going to do our birthdays. And I believe we have two birthdays, and then a winner. So I'll hand them to Robin.
Born
there with three.
Born
Three birthdays.
March 21st.
First day of spring.
First day of spring. Like to wish. We don't even have a winner yet, and you're already ringing the bell.
It's very complicated.
We would like.
Now, you know why I'm not a surgeon. You know, we drop all the scalpels in the OR and things like that.
This is an email from Georgia. Lee Maddox says, "Good morning. We'd like to wish our friend Lynn Geddix a happy birthday. Her birthday's today, March 21st.
Happy birthday, Lynn Geddix.
Happy birthday, Lynn. And then happy birthday to Stacy Cipher. And this is from your friends and family, your husband, John, and your mom, Deb. Happy birthday, Stacy.
Happy birthday, Stacy Cipher.
And last but not least, our third birthday for today, March 21st. Happy birthday to Kathy Stott, S-T-O-T-T. Maybe it's Stote.
I don't know.
I'm going to say Stott.
Okay.
Because it seems like Scott, but with a T.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Kathy. This is from your friends at the Hurley Pearlers.
Oh.
They're knitting.
They're knitting.
Like to learn to knit.
It's a rowdy group.
Okay, here comes the big moment. Winner of the famous cow pie at the Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street. You can go by there today and claim your prize. Lynn Geddix, you are the big winner. Happy birthday and congratulations. Go by the Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, and claim your prize.
I need more cowbell.
Keep sending them in, folks.
All right. So we just had an interesting visit from Dr. Michael Minerich, and we touched on a lot of subjects, and I always want to review. First, one point was the importance of regular primary care and making sure that you're up to date on recommended preventative measures. By the way, these measures are recommended for a reason.
Right.
You know, it's been proven. Colon cancer screening has been proven to be beneficial.
The doctor couldn't have been more clear.
Yeah.
He said your life will be longer.
Right.
If you get your colonoscopy.
Right. And we've touched on many, many times the importance of lung cancer screening, how that's a new topic and still amazingly underutilized as a prevention. So if you are a smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, you may be a candidate for lung cancer screening, and you should, if you are do for a preventative visit with your primary care physician, you should make it, or you could bring up the subject during the context of a primary care visit.
It's free with Medicare.
Yes, it's called we've touched on that so many times. It's called a wellness exam. It is a free visit. It's an evidence-based visit that touches on many preventative topics and counseling and prevention.
Mental health, depression, alcohol use.
Immunization status, screening for things like high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol abnormalities.
Hey, just making sure you're okay.
That's right. So it starts with regular, because people they say to me, even though it's what I do for a living, why do I need a primary care doctor? And the answer is you do. They try to keep you healthy. It's such a common criticism of traditional doctors. They only care about illness. Boy, you talk about something that touches my nerves,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I spend all day trying to counsel people on getting healthy, staying healthy, being healthy. Anyway, so he talked about the amazing progress in dreaded diseases like pancreatic cancer and melanoma, how there's been such an improvement in that. Metastatic melanoma, it was kind of a death sentence. And most of the time, pancreatic cancer was a death sentence. And they still are both very serious diagnoses. So I don't want to take it, somehow make it sound like they're not. But the fact that the treatment has really advanced so much in 5-10 years. By the way, 5 years in medical knowledge is considered a lifetime. I mean, the progress is that dramatic.
Right, Dr. Menerich was saying, too, that he's in close contact with, other places like Sloan Kettering and these places that, of course, everyone knows are revered for their amazing care of cancer patients. But he says, I think it's a comfort, it should be a comfort to the listeners to realize that these are top-notch doctors that are right here in your backyard. And that if they, if you need a second opinion and you would like, so sure, drive 2.5 hours, 3 hours to another center to get those second opinions, but that you're going to get that proper, up to date, like, what is it, on the, like these are cutting edge cancer treatments right here. And so we're always saying, and you often say that, like, when those emergencies happen, and of course they always happen, that you're here and your doctor is also right here.
Right.
So that
It means Vassar as well.
Exactly. You don't have to get on a plane, when you're having an emergency.
Or drive an hour.
Exactly. You can go to the doctor right here. Because some of those cases, if their doctors or their specialists are very far away, they come to you.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of the specialist, because you're here and the specialist is not here.
So we talked about it, and then we talked about prevention, maintaining a healthy diet, limiting alcohol, not smoking, of course, limiting your sun exposure, I read this a lot. People say, like, in the context of dementia, they'll say to me, my mother had Alzheimer's, I don't want to get it, what do I do? And the answer is, live a good, healthy life, antioxidants, keep your cells healthy. That's really not proven. It's very hard to prove what prevents dementia. By the way, we don't have great treatments for Alzheimer's either. So, but the point is, it comes into the same theme of just living a healthy life. Sleep probably plays a role in it. Low stress probably plays a role. These are all kind of theoretical, very hard to prove. In the 70s, they talked about type A and type B personalities. I always bring this up a lot. Type A were kind of like they're smoking and they're always angry, and think of some guy running a car dealership, yelling at his salesman and whatever all day long. And the type A's would have heart attacks. And then the type Bs were kind of like the stoic ones. They kept everything inside and they didn't really manifest stuff, and somehow that would kind of lead to cancer. And it's a dramatic simplification of personality types that may lead to illness. But the point is that your emotional state probably does play some role in your overall health. And it's hard to prove, but controlling your stress, controlling how you express anger, controlling all at the same time, not internalizing too much, I think also plays a major role in keeping us healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. We always say, you take care of your body and your mind.
I How do you prove that? Well, you in category A, you guys have low stress for 20 years, and you in category B, be very stressed out, and then
And let's
20
see
years,
who's out there.
20 years from now, we'll measure how everyone did. It's just you can't do it. Very exciting to have him on the phone, and so the importance of cancer screening though, and colon cancer awareness month. And just to understand that this, we're not doing this because it's, we're not wasting our time here. This is proven to be beneficial stuff. So, if you are not up to date, or your family, your loved ones, take advantage of this opportunity to catch up. Reach out to your primary care provider. If you're on Medicare, you can schedule what's called a wellness visit. If you have other insurance, you can schedule a physical. There's a little bit of semantics. It gets a little confusing. Medicare Advantage plans like MVP or United Healthcare will cover a physical, so it kind of doesn't matter what it is. At the end of the day, I cover the same subjects with people. It's just the question of the format that I use in the chart. What we call the visit. So people get, doctors and patients alike get all wrapped up in the semantics of a wellness visit versus a physical. And I don't. I explain to patients saying that this is, it's an amazing concept, but what the Medicare did not cover preventative visits until about 2005, 2006. So in the first, I guess that's 40 years of its existence, it's not covering prevention. Amazing, right? So then around 2005, 2006, they started to cover a welcome to Medicare visit, which was to be done at age 65 and then they, around 2011, 2012, introduced the idea of these annual wellness visits.
Important to note that you might get charged at your copay if the doctor goes over something else other than the specific wellness visit.
Right.
So existing conditions and things that you're already, if they make an adjustment to your diabetes medicine or you need your cholesterol medicine adjusted or whatever, you could be charged a copay for that. So just be aware. Be aware of that.
And it is kind of a balance in primary care. What the patient brings to the appointment is kind of different from what I want to go over in the appointment, and that can lead to kind of some tension and difficulty because there's only so much time as well. From the patient point of view, the visit might be a time to mention a bunch of things. My shoulder kind of hurts, I can't sleep. My wife says I snore. I have hemorrhoids that are bothering me. I mean, I'm quick to anger. I mean, all these things will kind of come up in the context of a preventative visit. So it's tough from the primary care point of view to kind of balance that out. So sometimes, if more than just the preventative subjects are addressed, it may generate a separate charge. I liken it to bringing your car in for a tune-up. So if you bring your car in for a tune-up, say the tune-up costs, I don't know, how much does a tune-up cost, Dan? About $150 maybe?
I don't know if they do tune-ups on our newer vehicles anymore specifically.
I'm trying to make an analogy.
I know here. Let's just say $300, I think would be.
All right. So during the course of your tune-up, your car maintenance visit, whatever they do, they plug it into a computer and run diagnostics. They find something. You need new brakes. That's not included in the course of the tune-up. You don't therefore get a set of new brakes paying for the tune-up. You're paying for the tune-up and the new brakes. So if something else comes up at the visit or something else gets addressed at the visit, it may generate a separate charge and therefore may generate a copay. And that could lead to some confusion and some tension amongst patients. It is the providers like myself have to make sure the patient understands that. So at the time, and that's analogous to a mechanic as well who says, your brakes are bad. I recommend you get it. They're going to explain the work to you before you do it, So anyway, analogy, right?
Yeah.
You know what I say about metaphors?
You never metaphor you didn't like.
Nope.
The jokes are good, I have to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're going to get better as I get older.
Probably.
Yeah. So it was a very exciting week in the world of medical students last week. They had what's called Match Day. This is a system that has been in place for about 70 or 80 years. So when a medical student finished medical school, and it was time to enter into a residency, basically. There was kind of a national data bank of these slots and applying for them, and then a very kind of dramatic reveal day.
It's kind of like the draft.
It is, but this is good news for people. This
Not
is
like not a military draft. I meant like a sports draft.
Oh, like a sports draft. It is
Right.
kind of like a draft. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I jumped right to a military.
No. I
connotation.
meant a sports draft, like the football players.
Right. So it's a very exciting day for all medical students because it's kind of the culmination of what you've been working for. You know, in our country, you usually do undergraduate education that takes 4 years of college and then 4 years of medical school, so 8 years. Some people have combined programs that are 6 or 7 years, but it's a good chunk of time of lives of, that are around 20, people that are 25, 26. It's basically a quarter of their life they've been studying to be a doctor. So this is very exciting to reveal this. And I remember the day as well. You get an envelope. Now I think it's done on computer. I remember days when we had envelopes, and they gave you an envelope, and you opened it up, and then we all had a big party. So I just wanted to congratulate all of the the new physicians of 2022, and I have the honor of working with medical students and residents, and I am almost always amazingly impressed by them. And I always say the future of doctors looks bright. It's the healthcare system I worry about, but the future of the doctors themselves, I'm very optimistic about. So we have to focus on the healthcare system.
How are you going to fix that?
Let me get to work.
Please do.
Yeah. Because, by the way, Dr. Minerich, he talked about all this great progress, but progress comes with a price, literally a price. This is research, that has to be funded somehow. So it does kind of add to the healthcare tab. At the same time, if it minimizes suffering, minimizes long-term care, it might be a little bit of an equal out. We know that screening for colon cancer, for example, not only it prolongs someone's life, but it does cut back on costs in the big picture too. Removing little polyps here and there in the course of screening colonoscopies is a far cry different than people have to undergo major surgery and chemotherapy, as a result of colon cancer. So these are things to keep in mind. All right, so I always want to review the subject. We talked about prevention, and we talked about how diagnoses that were kind of, I use the phrase death sentence. Maybe that's a little too dramatic, but that this is not quite. There's hope with these. With
the
these
immunotherapies, they sound amazing.
You see them all over television because this branch of science is also being used for psoriasis and rheumatoid arthritis. In that context, it's a little more obvious that those are autoimmune diseases. So these are immunotherapies to kind of suppress the immune system. But that was a relatively new concept when I was a medical student, that the immune system was not just preventing infection, but was also kind of maintaining the health of cells and even preventing tumors. Kind of like, we talked about, you gave it, that's such a large topic. What causes cancer, basically? Something goes wrong in the reproduction system of a cell, and it starts to kind of go out of control. And in addition to going out of control, the cells themselves don't really function. I mean, think of something like leukemia. You start getting excessive amounts of white blood cells, but at the same time, they don't work. So, these two things kind of happen. Anyway, this whole system in place to kind of maintain the health of the cells, and these new therapies kind of tuning into that, and how they've changed something like melanoma, which is such a dreaded diagnosis.
So basically, you're helping your own body not just fight infection, but fight cancer.
That's right. Yeah,
Well, the concept does make sense. I mean, your body fights infection, right?
Yeah.
I always think of it like, honestly, the way the body works and how medicine is in general. Like if you ever took like anatomy and physiology class, it is like, it's amazing, the system. Like if you cut yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like the body.
But you're talking about the clotting mechanism.
Right.
That takes about 10 minutes, varying on different factors, but this whole cascade of things goes in to encourage that blood to clot. Right. Cells, coagulation factors, these weird things even, and this really confused me. That's called complement. It kind of even more chemicals within the system that have a role with clotting. So it's that's the clotting.
Brain's like, oh, there's a cut, go.
Right. Boo, 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 boo. It's like like a military operation or something.
Yeah.
Swarm.
And the concept that like a bone is going to heal itself. Like you're going to break a bone.
Right.
In half. And you're just going to, put it back.
Well, that's a good point.
Don't move it, and it will heal.
To use that analogy, so what's going on with a fracture is not only is the bone healing, but it's kind of remodeling to kind of get its contour back as well. So that kind of idea that the body is not only fixing itself but remodeling itself is an interesting concept.
What do you mean remodeling?
Well, if a bone kind of has a little lump because it's been broken, the healing process might leave it there or at least part of it. Yeah. I broke my hand a couple years ago, and it's been remodeled.
Right. It wasn't good for your piano playing.
No, it wasn't. Because in the left hand of a piano, you have to do what's called a tenth. See that?
That's 10 keys.
Yep. So it's an octave plus another 2.
So, we brought up the New Jersey, the small New Jersey college that there's just a huge upset in the basketball world, which is going on. It's March Madness, right?
March Madness.
It's March. So when I heard that the doctor was from New Jersey, because the restaurant where I work, everyone's from New Jersey there, and it was all everybody was talking about.
Yeah. About
oh
St.
my
Peter's?
gosh, everybody was so excited about St. Peter's winning.
It's really not a medical topic, but let's talk about it anyway. My father, had rather humble upbringings. Grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey. And he went to St. Peter's City College. So you have a Jewish kid going to a Catholic school, but that was kind of common. But it's a little school, in Jersey City. It's a city, There's, and even I was reading an article about it saying it's not even a glamorous campus. It's a functional campus,
Right, and my friends that basically my family where I work, they all came from there. They used to go and watch games there all the time. They lived like 20 minutes away from St. Peter's. They're all they're so excited. This was a big upset, though.
Yes.
This was a...
So an article said, I can't believe we're talking about basketball at the end of our Medical Mondays, but my father has dementia, okay? And for me to call him and say, Dad, I got this news for you. St. Peter's beat Kentucky in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. And for him to immediately go, what?
That's wonderful. He was like...
Kentucky is one of the giants of NCAA basketball. And then they went on in the second round to beat a school called Murray State, which I had to look up. Murray State's a relatively small school, but also in the state of Kentucky. And they're playing again this weekend. They're going to play either Texas or Purdue. So now they're going up against more big boys here.
Yeah.
But this is a real David and Goliath story. Little college with 3,500 people making it to the Sweet 16 is very exciting.
Yep.
And again, not a glamour. Every now and then this happens to Colgate or Cornell or but these are fancy schools. Colgate, Jersey City, St. Peter's is a blue collar school in a blue collar town. So these are real underdogs here.
So when I heard that the doctor was from New Jersey, I just thought that was interesting.
He's from South Jersey. Cherry Hill is kind of like a suburb of Philadelphia. So it's more south than where I'm from.
It was funny how he said when he's in the Midwest, he says he's from Philadelphia, and if he's on the East Coast, he says he's from South Jersey.
The Midwest, they just don't know what Jersey is, so you just say
funny.
Philadelphia. All right, I think we had a great show. Did you think he was a good guest?
I think it's wonderful, and I hope that the listeners enjoyed it as well and realize that there's really just top-notch medical care right here, right in your backyard.
In the Hudson Valley. Take advantage of that. And I don't want to leave people out when I feel I kind of plug some local resources. I think that there's great providers throughout Kingston, a lot of great doctors that work out of Health Alliance, what I still call Kingston Hospital and Benedictine. I wonder when that building's going to be done anyway.
Yeah. And all of our talk about screenings and everything, I mean, it's so important. I know a lot of people put it off. It was a pandemic. Nobody did their like usual things that they were doing.
Right.
And so if you've put it off, I just heard a commercial for the Kingston Medical Mall up where the Macy's site was that you can even get a mammogram there without a prescription. Like your doctor doesn't even have to order it for you. You can go on your own and you can get your mammogram done. So
I don't think this is not new. Okay, I think that the state, it was a law kind of allowing women to have their mammograms without a prescription. I still think it's a good idea to get a prescription because that means you have a primary care doctor or an OBGYN, or both.
You want the results to go somewhere.
Right. And I still think it's a good idea to have it done in the context of a long-term care system. But yes, you do not need a prescription to get a mammogram. The current recommendation, and Dr. Curcio would very much disagree with this, is really almost to even say that the breast exam is not necessary, where to prioritize the mammogram. So she would disagree with that very much, and I understand completely her perspective. But we're entering in the last minute of this morning's show, and we want to once again thank our guest, Dr. Michael Minerich. And really appreciate the wonderful work. But I meant to bring this up, by the way. You and I had a illness in our own family. Where my mother had a surgical emergency back in October, and was at Vassar for about 3 weeks. I lost track, 3 or 4 surgeries.
3 surgeries.
Yeah, and the interactions that I had with the surgeons and the other physicians that were on the case, the resident physicians. I really thought was tremendous. And so here I was on the other side as a family member. So I was really very pleased overall with the care that she was.
And your mom completely recovered from that surgery.
She has.
So she's doing good.
All right. This brings an end to this morning's show.
Back next Monday?
No, but we'll be there on Tuesday.
The beginning of you're going to be at the
breakfast on Tuesday.
At the breakfast on Tuesday, and then your first Monday of April is April 4th.
There you go.
There you go. And
yes.
we'll see you then. We got some good guests lined up for
Thank
future
you.
shows. All right.
Thank you, Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg, and a very, very special thanks to Dr. Michael Minerich. Thank you for being with us for this last 2 hours, and thank you, listeners, for being with us for these last 2 hours. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank, many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one near you. Kingston Community Radio and Elks Lodge 550 team up for breakfast live remote. Tuesday, March 29th from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. during our regular show. Kingston Elks Lodge at 143 Hurley Avenue is where you're going to have your breakfast. And cost is $10. Includes eggs, pancakes, bacon, sausage, coffee, and juice. Kingston Community Radio will be broadcasting live that morning with Cameron Rylance and Nina Postjapak doing their normal show from that location. So come on down and enjoy a breakfast with Nina and Cam. At the Kingston Elks Lodge, 143 Hurley Avenue. All are welcome, and it will be a great time. And thank you for being with us, and again, we invite you to be with us tomorrow morning for a terrific Tuesday with Nina and Cam, 7 to 9 a.m. Until tomorrow, we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. We now return you to Magic 92.5.